Happy Wednesday, Ivo. How are you doing today?
Great. Hello, everybody joining right now for this session of the ADC Live. Thank you for assisting to this show. And feel free anytime to ask any questions on the LinkedIn page. We will try to answer your remarks and your questions during the live. So thank you very much. How about you, Misha? Are you doing well?
Doing very, very well. Very excited about this webinar about directory and use directories. Directories. I know it's a very deep topic. So very curious to see what we're going to share today.
Yeah, the user directory is something that is there, that has been there since the beginning, right? And everybody, uses it to some degree, but it has so many characteristics, useful characteristics, and even a superpower. So we thought that it would have been nice to speak more about it during this session of the ADC Live. But first, let's begin from our usual um, well, um, portions of the ADC Live, right? And so, what about the pro tip of the week, Misha? Would you like to speak more about that?
So the pro tip of the week, something very interesting, a new release in LumApps, which I think is a great addition. That LumApps, you can now in spaces you can actually modify labels. Specifically labels around articles, events, posts. Those usually had to be were always baked in, and you couldn't change them. But now you can. Lumos made a new release that allows you to update the labels of a space. Um, so, for example, if we go to um, a space here,
Yeah.
uh,
Wait. No. Yes,
and
this one. Do you want to share a screen, maybe?
so, yeah, and so we go edit navigation. So here we're editing navigation. So we have a lot of different labels here. So now we have articles. Before, when I clicked the vertical pagination dots, I only had the ability to uh, um, really couldn't do much there. Now I can edit. You simply type something. So instead of articles, say I want to put announcements, right? And so let's say instead of events, let's say I want to make it all events, right? And do done. Posts, we can do this as shout outs, for example, right? Shout outs, and let's save. So now you can see all these are changed. Obviously, I can move them around. If I want to move these articles slash announcements a little bit over, I can. But that's something that's a really nice addition and allows you to use spaces and for kind of personalize the space more for each team so they can really use the labels they're most comfortable with.
Well,
And
that's very, very helpful. I think that can help a lot administrators to customize their experience. So yeah, that's very, very helpful. And thanks a lot, LumApps, for taking care of this, right? So,
yeah,
okay, so wait, struggling with my presentation. So, Misha, what are you excited about this week?
well, it's something you did, you actually, that you made a new update to our org chart. And before the org chart was, you can only use the same org chart view that LumApps creates and just put it as a widget on the page. Now we have a new org chart presentation that allows to actually make it look like a real org chart with what you would expect, right? You have the hierarchy on top, and that's kind of more horizontal and vertical instead of just kind of vertically going downwards. So I think that's a really great addition to an org chart that adding these again, the value here is adding an org chart directly to a page is dynamic. If you want to add it to a team page, department page, a function page, a space, and have the hierarchy start at the top from the leader of that specific business unit or department, you can do that, and then it'll kind of just automatically build downwards everybody who reports up to that leader, right? Again, using the user directory manager field, relation field, which is a very powerful field in and of itself. And assuming it's accurate, the data is accurate, the org chart will reflect the accuracy of the data, and it's obviously dynamic. So as the reporting structure changes, the org chart widget obviously will change as well with that org chart. So thanks, Eo, for making that addition.
Yeah, well, and that's a great assist for the rest of our presentation because, of course, the org chart is based on the org chart API, and the org chart API in LumApps is absolutely based over the LumApps user directory, where, well, the main user directory. That is a concept that we are going to speak about in a second. But first of all, I think that maybe it's time to involve a little bit more our users, right? So, do you see where I want to come?
Oh, okay. Here we go. Who's a trivia question? So,
Yeah, of course.
interesting.
Wait,
I
I
forgot
think.
about this one, Ivo. I didn't prepare.
Oh, really? Well, I thought that we had a learning space, no, about the trivia question. Maybe we can present that one. So just 1 second. I think that I have it's learning space. So here, right?
Mhm.
So, for example, well, the trivia this week is about testing your user directory knowledge, Misha. So let's see if you are prepared. Feel free to answer wrong or right, whatever you wish. In all the cases, well, I find that a little bit awful to have my profile picture here on the right because I have a strange guy, an awkward guy who is staring at me. So yeah, well, a bit. Well, that's Halloween like, right? So, dear Misha, can you use the LumApps user directory to track your user habits?
That's a great question. Definitely, you can use the directories. You can use it for to track who they are, where they're from, what they, it's so that's I think that's true, right, Ivo?
Okay, we will see in a second, of course. So, second question for you. A user directory can be used to, and so, well, we have three correct choices here. Maybe we forgot one of them, but yeah, of course. What is the wrong one?
The wrong one. I think the wrong one is build communities. You cannot build communities with user directory.
Okay,
But
so let me select the three others. Okay, and now selecting a user directory as main will do what precisely? Use the attributes from this directory for the user profile, display the user attributes for the site analytics, or won't do anything different?
well, definitely no, it's not going to do nothing. That's so. I think the first two answers will be correct.
Okay, let's go. Let's try to submit this. Oh, wow, wow. I think that is the first time that we get all green, 100% success on this kind of trivia. So, well, usually I try to get something wrong to see some red. I like a lot of red, but yeah, well, this time we had a 100% success rate. So congratulations, Misha. All the answers were correct. So let's go back on track to our presentation today. I am quite sure that you wanted to speak more about the directory entries, the user directory and its characteristics, right, Misha?
Yeah, I mean, so the user directory obviously it's a great tool in LumApps. It's been there like you said from a very long time. And even though you might even if you have a user directory that you're using with another service or another tool you might be using, this one is actually gives you a lot of capabilities to really maximize user behavior, like you said, and you can search users, search employees, their contact information. You can build templates. You can build kind of show what users will see when they search for a user. They'll see their phone number, their title, their office location, etc. Obviously, this directory also has a baked-in org chart, the one that we're using to serve up as an extension. Um, but the user directory is not just, it's really, and it's also more supported on mobile, which is a very valuable thing. For example, if you're sitting in an office and you forget how, who the the name of somebody else, or if you want to get somebody else's email, right? You can open up LumApps app, look up their user directory, look up the user directory very easily, and then search that user, get their email, and reach out to them. So even for frontline, especially for frontline workers, it really comes in handy. The why use it? So like we said before, it's really it helps you build get with help you with analytics to build segments, so you can not just understand what the data looks like and understand the data, but also you can use it for use the segments that are built through a user directory to communicate with employees, by having groups and targeting certain groups and highlighting certain groups, right, and restricting certain contents. So really, user directory is not just a way to find folks and find people in your org, but really it's a way to communicate and improve communication. It helps you improve because of the whole segment feature, and by making the user directory as main, you'll be able to maximize the segment feature and target users better, get analytics, get deeper analytics, and use segments in those analytics to get better data, right? Obviously, user directories allow you to build the org charts that we saw. There's a lot of other features here with hover cards that you can hover over content or an author of a content, and you can see who they are and their user directory. When the user directory is made set as main, it'll show you some of those fields that are in that hover card from that directory. So there's a lot of benefits to using it, and not just to find folks, but really to consume, to target, and really to get better insight and metadata about the folks in your organization in a one-click way. And finally, we already talked about this, but in large organizations, you can or use directories. Really, with using segments and building segments, building analytics, the really starting point is the use directory itself. And once the directory is set up, it's set up as main. You have the correct fields. Those fields will synchronize properly, which here we'll talk about. Then it opens the whole richness of data that you can start consuming, that your site admins can start consuming, that your page contributors and page contributors can look at as well for their KPIs. And really, user directories are meant to really give you richer data, and not just find people as commonly thought of as a misnomer. So no, user directories are not just to find people, but really to give you richer data about people and to improve communications.
Yeah, well, thanks a lot, Misha. I think that we went to straight to the point about why you should be using a user directory, but I think that we have even more reasons about well, how to well use your user directory. This very precious piece of the LumApps digital workplace landscape, right? So, well, the first, we are going to give you just 3 little samples about what the user directory can do, and where you are going to see its
Ivo, I think
effects.
we have
Right?
sorry, I think we have a question from Herman.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
He
Amazing.
asked, we have managers that manage 2 teams. How can we visualize this kind of double tree in the org chart? So, um, I assume, right, and going back to the org chart, if that manager is managing, he has a tree of teams. So basically, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when that user, if you can actually show how the org chart works on the LumApps page, but when you select the user, the manager who manages those teams, and you select the org chart to start from that user, it'll show you everybody who reports to them, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Dynamically. I'm not sure if you're able to show the LumApps page with that experience on your side, but we can. I think we can do that. Um,
Maybe, well, I don't have the test data to demonstrate that, but if you have that one in mind, well, we can go to a location where you have that page. I don't have a test data for the specific use case. I don't think, at least. In all the cases, well, it depends on how the LumApps organizational chart API will represent that information. So essentially what it does is that it uses the field manager of in order to represent this relationship. And so if you have an information like that in your user directory, the LumApps organizational chart API will display the tree for that specific use case.
Yeah.
So
in this case, let's say if a real manages, so I manage, let's say, the multiple teams. So the teams really display as individuals, right? And whoever's under those individuals will display as well. So in that case, the leader has 3 or 4 or 5 people, right? And 2 of them are so whoever the report is, so you'll see the full reporting structure that below them, and maybe they have more than 3 levels. Maybe there's 4 or 5 levels, right? So you'll see the depth of their structure in here. So that shouldn't be an issue. And secondly, I see Herman has a second question. We have a hierarchical structure, but also a virtual agile structure with tribes and squads. How can we visualize that? As LumApps only allows to use one field manager to build the tree. That's a good question. Maybe we can come back to this one.
Yeah, of course. But well, what I'm thinking about is that on a LumApps site, you may have several user directories, right? So, well, the first idea that comes to mind, I didn't reflect about this very much, but you have a site for the agile structure, for the agile squads, and then you have the classical organizational chart, right? And so in your user directory, in your first site, you use a field that is populated with the manager of the classical hierarchy. While on the second side, you define a main user directory based on the other manager field. And so you can display the traditional organizational chart on the first site, and you can display the agile organizational structure on the second side. That is the first idea that comes to mind, but I'm quite sure that there are ways to tweak this in a better way that does not require a second site. What do you think, Misha?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think we need to. I think it might be a good solution, but something probably worth looking into a little bit more after.
Yeah,
But
of course. We will take your question offline, Herman, and we will get back to you. Okay? So stay tuned. Thank you very much for your questions, Herman.
and thank you, Herman. Ivo, I'm going to put your screen back on stage.
Okay, thank you. So of course, so we have interrupted our presentation about here, when we were speaking about where the information present in the LumApps directory appears when using the product. So the first thought, when I was preparing these slides, the first thought went to the search API. So essentially, when you are searching for something in LumApps, there is a little payload that leaves your page in order to send information about you and what you are doing. This is particularly true for the Coveo integration, but when you are using a Coveo as a search engine, this particular search engine and the LumApps API, the LumApps user interface for Coveo is going to populate information about you. This information is taken from your main user directory. And so in this screenshot, for example, you can see that there is information about myself. So that's the department that I belong to. There is my email, there is my full name, location, and everything that I have populated through the LumApps user directory. If you were not aware of that, we can also maybe advertise 30 seconds our custom ADC headless user experience for Coveo. So we are both LumApps and Coveo partners, and so in this specific case, we have another potential user interface to Coveo that will be conveying even more information about you. And well, you have to know that the big idea behind Coveo is that you can have analytics about your entire search landscape. So not only limited to LumApps, but even beyond, you can have an idea of what are the search trends across your corporation, your company, and so drive the information and how your end users retrieve the information that is useful to them at the very precise moment when they are searching for it. So that's a very, very practical solution. And of course, the context information about the user allows Coveo to give you more relevant results. And that's a great advantage of using Coveo. So the second advantage of using the LumApps user directory is that you can reuse the information that you have defined in your main user directory also in Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. You're certainly aware that you can connect your LumApps digital workplace with those two analytics tools. These two analytics tools are very, very helpful because you can, first of all, build custom dashboards about how your users are using your digital workplace. You can get even more advanced user engagement analytics. You can dig more into your data, right? So what is important about that is that any custom attribute that you are going to define on your user directory will be sent through Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager so that you can reproduce the segments, well, the ones that you have in LumApps and even others, into those two very powerful tools. These user directory attributes are even available in the LumApps data lake. And so these informations about your users are present about everywhere, and you can leverage them in order to understand better what your population is doing with your digital workplace. And another superpower, the definitive one, but we are going to speak about this way more in a future session, are the segments. So I know that Misha has planned this in 2 weeks from now, but we will be speaking about segments and how you can use them in a very useful way, right? So segments can be defined starting upon the structure of your LumApps user directory. And any attribute that you can define in the LumApps user directory can be used in order to define a new group in LumApps. And groups can be really used in many, many, many different places in LumApps. So in this example, you have just the content creation and the LumApps native analytics, but you can see that you have those two segments. The Philly consultants is a segment, so you can spot it because there is that eye icon on the right of the name, and so you can reuse the segments about almost everywhere. I was unable to use them in the admin, in many sections of the admin, but about everything else, well, you can use a segment for that. So these are just ideas about how to use the user directory. So now let's do a little practical exercise about how you can um, define a custom user directory attribute, right? So I just needed to find the right page. Okay, perfect. Yeah, here we go. So the LumApps user directory is available as a module. So, well, in order to define a new one, you can just click on the new button in this interface, and that will create, well, that will pop a new interface like this one. All the features, oh, sorry. Well, I have a tag assistant here. Maybe that was not really wanted for the moment. But here, the section that we have spoken a lot about during this session is this one about the template. So, two things. The first thing is that in order to see what I am speaking about, you absolutely need to select this main user directory option that you have here at the bottom of the information tab. Once you have selected this main user directory, then you go to the template section and you have a certain number of fields. Well, we are not going to dig a lot into this, but you can see that a field is composed of a name, and then there is a strange pattern here in the bottom. This allows the user directory administrator to populate the values for every user starting upon the information present in one of your identity providers. So, for example, in this case, the location corresponds to a section of every user identity that begins with organizations, for which the primary attribute is set to true, and then we are extracting a value that is the location. Let me show you that a little bit bigger, because on a video maybe it's not visible enough. But this is the very first, well, the most powerful feature in the user directory. This syntax allows you to select about any portion of the identity provider's payloads. The second very important information about this attribute definition is that you can define a Google Analytics and a tag manager code. In this very specific case, we have this pattern here. This field appears only if you have selected the main user directory option that I have shown you a minute ago. In all the cases, this is being mapped to an attribute that is going to leave your LumApps digital workplace and will be injected in every Google Analytics request. So you can define as many this attribute on as many fields as you want, and all the attributes that have been flagged with such an attribute will be present in the payload sent to Google Analytics. So just to showcase this a second, let's inspect, for example, this is the session that I have had a few hours ago, and let's see if I am still able to inspect this payload. Okay, so this one is the payload that has been sent by LumApps to the connected Google Analytics instance. And in this payload, so this one generically speaking is a JSON payload. In this JSON payload, you can see attributes. These attributes are related to the content that the user was visiting. So that's the metadata eventually about the content itself. But we have also information about the user. And so you can spot them because they begin with LumApps user dir. And then you have this suffix that corresponds to the value that you have set in the template field attribute, right? And so for this value, for example, you can see the corresponding value. And you can, of course, create segments in your favorite analytics tool, and that will allow you to recreate the same segments that you have also in LumApps. So, for example, where can you use those segments? Well, a quick navigation will show you that we can find those same segments, for example, in the search analytics. And for example, here on the top right portion, I can select that famous Philly consultants that we were looking at in the presentation. Yeah, so this is one of our segments. That's the only one that has been populated and that has valuable data. So yeah, this is how you can define a custom field in your LumApps user directory and use it for many different purposes. The first one would be to track the behaviors of user segments for the analytics purpose mainly, but you can also reuse these segments in many different locations of your LumApps workplace, such as, for example, the creation of a new content. Like when we are setting the visibility of this page, for example, here we have the same segment that we have seen in the Google Analytics. This segment that has been defined based on the location attribute of every user in our user directory. So that's it about the superpowers of the LumApps user directory. And yeah, I think that we are a bit over with our presentation. So let me switch back to the next important sections, right? So your feedback, for example. Misha, do you want to speak more about this?
Yeah, just feedback obviously matters. We cover a lot of topics, but it would be great if you guys give us more. Maybe you want to come on the show, Herman or anybody else, talk about your use cases. That would be great. Very open to it. Give us feedback on our Hive partner space. Just type in ADC partner in the Hive and look at our and give us a shout out or a survey. Take our survey on the partner space. And for what's coming up next, Yuo, what's going on? What's next for December? We're already almost. We still have one more actually in November.
Yeah, of course. In November, we have one more ADC live. This time, we are going to dissect the groups versus the segments and see what you can use them for. And then, you know that I love very much the search features in LumApps. So hello, Thomas, if you are watching this. So how can you configure your search page to, for example, install a search extension? And how can you configure the fields and the tabs present on that search page? So let's inspect together those two topics. And then, of course, that's the end of the year, so we will be taking a break and meet you again in 2026. That's about all.
And Herman, last question before we drop. So Herman asked, is the analytics of a segment retroactive or not? And the answer is yes. Good news, it is retroactive. Because the feature is there. It is in the background as long as the segment, the use directory is there and exists. The data is there. So I believe that is accurate. You can keep me honest, but from what I learned before, it is retroactive. So. Okay.
Yes, that is. So thank you very much, Herman, for your participation today. And thanks everybody who is watching this as a replay. Have a very good evening, everybody. Well, at least on the European side. Have a good evening. For you, Misha, it's still early, right?
Thanks, you. Have a good evening too. That's right. See ya.